Good afternoon, gentlemen. This is a press conference we'll be addressing. I'm being joined by the Deputy National Secretary of our party and the National Vice Chairman South. This press conference is on insecurity, and we titled it Insecurity, Tinubu Surrendering to Terrorists. Under the APC-led Tinubu Administration, Nigerians have witnessed, especially in the last week, a spate of kidnappings in different states. 25 students in Kebbi and more than 315 students and staff in Niger states, in northern Nigeria. Each of these kidnappings leaves a trail of sorrow, tears, blood, fear, and deep anguish on the families of those affected and their communities. In response to this, different state governments in the affected region have taken disparate measures, while the federal government has yet to give any concrete direction. We are aware that the closure of schools in these areas is already being implemented by some state governments and is currently being contemplated by the federal government. We warn that this closure, if undertaken, like many of this administration's quick fix approaches to serious governance issues, will amount to a complete surrender to terrorists whose sole aim is to shut down schools and prevent children from obtaining formal education, which they declare as forbidden. If the schools are closed, the goal of the terrorists would have inadvertently been achieved. Rather, we urge the federal government to develop a comprehensive plan to combat the issue, instead of resorting to a simplistic approach of closing schools in a bid to prevent further kidnappings and to score cheap political points, quite characteristic of this administration. This alarm is crucial because a closure of schools will exacerbate the already challenging educational situation in northern Nigeria, where, according to UNICEF, majority of the 18.3 million out-of-school children in Nigeria reside there. This data not only paints a grim picture, but also mirrors the exact situation in Nigeria. The series of attacks and kidnappings in different states within a week is indicative of the alarming insecurity that has become the contemporary lived experience and the new reality of Nigerians under the APC-led Tinubu administration. More troubling is the fact that when these unfortunate incidents happen, the administration's response is usually lackluster and unempathetic. For example, instead of the president visiting Kebbi and Niger states to meet with and sympathize with the parents of the children who are in captivity and to address the security personnel there to boost their morale, he merely directed the Minister of State for Defense to relocate to Kebbi. A juxtaposition of the contingent sent by this same president to the US Congress and the G20 meeting with Matawale's lone envoy exposes the levity with which the president treats this matter. This reaction by government is most insensitive, and we must repeat, it is most insensitive and dismissive of the gravity of the problem at hand by the APC-led federal government. We charge the federal government strongly to immediately fund and implement the national policy on safety, security, and violence-free schools, anchored on credible community intelligence and quick security response, capable of anticipating and contending with attack on schools. Insecurity in schools will be a big disincentivization for education in the country, especially in northern Nigeria. We're already not standing very strongly on the education foundation. Insecurity to schools will completely take us out on that framework. We again remind the President, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the entire APC-led federal government that the security of lives and property is the primary function of any government. And at any time, such a government, or any government whatsoever, is unwilling, unable, or incapable of executing this primary role of the security of lives and property, such a government must either ask for help locally or internationally, or honorably resign, if that government is sincere and responsible. That's our position on this matter, and we urge that the federal government and indeed state governments should take this very seriously. The closure of schools does not, will not now, not in the future, augur well for the children and the future of this country. Now, the benefit of hindsight is that It has happened before. What we are facing is not new. And as at the time Chibok girls happened, the current president proffered solution. And as at NBA conference some years ago, the vice president said that he will be fighting from the front. This offers an opportunity. Nigerians bought into that story, and this offers an opportunity for that. Now, going to that, we are not, the academic calendar globally is not going to change because we are having insecurity. And therefore, children who have not been contributors to insecurity cannot be made to suffer for circumstances beyond their control. So if the schools, the closure of schools does not stop insecurity, they can still be kidnapped from their homes. So are you going to close their homes? Until we take a whole of society approach to this insecurity matter, where we analyze it sufficiently, where we are able to use credible intelligence. You have heard a sitting governor ask that security operatives were withdrawn 45 minutes before the attack. Communities have been sacked with people taken from their homes. So the closure of schools does not prevent children being taken. The difference is that when they are taken in school, they are called children. When they are taken at home, they are called Nigerians. So are you trying to minimize the fact that people are being killed and kidnapped? The global academic calendar will not wait for us to finish insecurity. And so exams will come. And so what we are saying is that a whole of society approach must be taken. So for example, community intelligence must be used. Time was it when we had the civilian JTF and you had them giving credible intelligence. Now we now have a trust deficit between even the security circles there. And so we are saying that we must go back to the drawing board and agree that we must not, the security agencies must not suspect themselves. So we must forge ourselves to the point where we look at these issues for what they are and we begin to analyze, address these issues comprehensively. Examinations will not wait for security. So these children are either going to lose one term, lose 2 terms, or lose a year. Time lost can never be regained. Where we are today, Trump has already, the whole country was on trial in the US Congress. Never in the history of this country, when we speak about sovereignty, have we been. But truth is, citizens are global. We've come, globalization has made it that the global community sees citizens as being global. So the global community is involved. And so there's no need for invitation. You heard people testifying there. The issue is that we are ready before the world on the issue of insecurity. And the fact that we already have threats of intervention has not changed anything. So for us, we're asking the president to do the honorable thing. Amongst nations, when challenged, nations have the right to ask. That is why you have allies, you have friends, you have diplomatic partnerships. You have the right to ask for diplomatic support from other countries to tackle this. Because terrorism as it is not confined to a geographical space called a nation. It is an international crime, which is why you see countries going for terrorists anywhere they are. Responsible political party, so we don't engage in assumptions and hearsay. Assumptions is the least form of knowledge. And that is why we're including our last paragraph. Let me read again. We remind Mr. President and the entire APC-led administration that the security of lives and property is the primary function of any government. And if at any time that government is unwilling, unable, or incapable of executing this primary function, they should ask for help, either locally or internationally, or do the honorable thing, resign. So the determination of whether they need to ask for help is that of government who understands the assessment, who has undertaken an assessment of its internal capacity, and who also understands what the situation is. If they feel they are not overwhelmed, let them tell us. If they feel they are overwhelmed, let them ask. There are even resources locally. We have retired generals who are here who can help. But if you don't invite them, you can become a middlesome interloper if you seek to help. I'm sure that even after this press conference, we're even willing, as PDP, we're willing to help. But if they ask,